filter one kite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live. Yes, we are live, and we are late, but I couldn't find my bong, so there's a couple other things I couldn't find either, but we are coming to you live from lifestyleradio.net, and tonight I am coming to you from the Underground Studio, a private location in my area. It's a private spot, so I can't say much about it. Tonight, my joint host is Alicia Yashcheshen, and she had a scheduled guest who is a patient who loves to tell his side of the story, and we love patients coming on and telling the stories. But unfortunately, we're having a bit of an issue finding our guest, but we have found someone to come in and talk to us tonight. But first, it's time to talk to Alicia. Hello, Alicia. How are you?
Hi, Al. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Well, yes, tonight we had scheduled to have Lane on the program, Lane Britnell, but we're having a bit of an issue getting hold of Lane, right? Or Lane.
Correct. I think it's just a time issue, but no worries, we'll figure it out.
That's right. So we have reached out to the cannabis community, and we have found a person who loves to help patients, and he loves to share his stories and help educate other people, and just help. And that is Justin Loizos. And Justin's going to come on here shortly, and right after Alicia and I just have a little bit of quick news talk, and then we'll be talking to Justin.
Awesome.
All right. Awesome. Okay, Alicia, what's going on there in Saskatchewan? You were telling me before the show that your local dispensary has been raided.
Correct. And it wasn't raided by virtue of a complaint that it was causing society harm or patients harm. It was because someone reported a break-in, so they went to investigate the break-in, and like dirty pigs, they raided them.
So they went to investigate this break-in, and in the process of investigating that, they found this. Was it in a different, like maybe beside them or something, or was it the same unit?
Well, allegedly a customer came to the location and it looked like it was broken into, and so someone had called the police. And so they came and they were there for upwards of 10 hours investigating this alleged break-in and documenting and raiding the dispensary. Oh,
and, I'm sitting here, hearing about like your situation. Now you're without a dispensary to go to, plus all the other patients that were using this place. Now, where are they going to go? Is there?
Yeah, exactly. What are they just going to call up their street dealer? Like, so how many patients are going to not go to bed tonight? How many patients are going to sit and suffer in pain because they're out of medication because they were relying on that business? Yeah,
exactly. And now
when are the politicians going to get and the police services going to get that politics has no play in medicinal cannabis? There will always be a place for medicinal cannabis, whether or not legalization happens.
Correct.
So keep your hands off. Like, they're playing with people's lives, and as far as I'm concerned, that's not okay.
No, it's not. Yeah, exactly. So was this just a single place that they raided, or did they raid several?
They did. Well, they have two locations, so they raided one location yesterday, and then today neither location was open. But like quick surveillance had proven that there was at least a handful of people that went there to buy something, and they were closed.
Wow! And here, and what is the new provincial in Saskatchewan? What's the provincial laws that are coming out around the recreational end of it? Are they going to open retail as far as like it's going to be to the public?
Well, allegedly they're going to have stores, but have they said if those stores are going to administer both rec and medicinal? Well, I don't know. Like, there's always going to be a place for dispensaries.
Yeah.
Like,
so I'm sort of getting at is they're shutting down these places, but yet on the other hand, they're giving permits to private operators to operate stores in Regina. Yeah. Right now, that's what I'm reading here. Here is that the Saskatchewan Liquor and Gaming Authority are now able to issue 6 retail permits to private operators in Regina. And yet here they are probably an hour or two away raiding people that are dispensing cannabis to patients.
Well, and it's medicinal cannabis. So
yeah.
These places
yeah.
all purport to be medicinal. So they have no business going in there and raiding them, right?
No.
Like,
yeah.
Well, I mean, they're just being pigs. Like, and, police services wonder why they get a bad name while doing stuff like that. Like, someone calls you to make a report about a crime that was committed against someone in the cannabis community, and instead of helping them, you work against them. So you wonder why people, like police, don't get called when there's crime against cannabis community members.
Well, we'll be able to talk to Justin about that. And talking about Justin, let's bring him into the show. Justin Loizos, welcome to the Pace Radio Show. As you know, Alicia's saying, they're dispensary owners. Should they call the police if they're raided?
I'll tell you what. Thank you for having me on. It's really nice to be able to speak with both of you. And
welcome.
Thank you. In this particular instance, it's really hard for me to say. I can only speak from my personal experience.
Correct. Yeah.
Where I'll tell you what, I've had 3 break-ins. One of them recently, 2 of them I didn't do anything about because they were done. It was too late. All I did was enhance my security. Then I enhanced my security. Unfortunately, the first one that actually really set back my business, set back everything to do with my compassion club. It hindered our ability to continue to help patients. The first break-in, so they were punks. Like, what they did really jeopardized our safety, made us feel vulnerable, and it really helped. Like, it didn't help with patients' access. The difference is in Toronto currently, there's not a lot of options for compassion clubs, but I'm sure that these patients were able to acquire their medicine and nearby. And in the third incident, fortunately, they were caught. My security now alerted the police. I made some adjustments, and they caught one of them, right?
Yeah.
So the police were called. One of the individuals who broke in was apprehended. Another one was apprehended some days later. And the police on site were nothing but respectful. And it was great. Yeah, the one gentleman, we shook hands when I left, and since then we've been in touch, and they've been respectful as a business owner, as a sick person, and they've been, I think, though, like, this is much a different territory, that they've gone through this. They've been through the ropes. They've seen the different break-in scenarios. They've seen the certain people who shouldn't be dispensing quote-unquote medicinal cannabis when whatever. We do things differently, and
Correct.
we're respected as such, where we only deal with medicinal patients. We're zoned industrial. We don't have any signage, and it allows us to stay low profile and just work. And we also have really, really low prices, compassionately. But that's just what we do, and it seems to have garnered enough respect for whatever reason to not allow any kind of retaliation from the police.
Mm-hmm.
However, long way around this answer. In a different province or I don't know what I would do. I would hate to be robbed twice. I don't know if I would have the strength to continue if I didn't feel the police were on my side.
Yeah, I could see that, because it's important, like, for for many people that you do have an open channel with the police where you're talking with them, and they see the way that your business is operating and you're dealing with the patients, and they're seeing the benefits. So it sounds like it's, you keep dealing with your patients and all that, and they see the good work that you're doing. So yeah, it was sort of something that we had discussed, Alicia and I and Al, before we even came live on the air. We're seeing these raids going on, and we talk about the ones that have been well established, the ones that have been around for 10, 15, 20 years.
PCC, for an example.
Yeah, exactly.
They haven't been touched. And they have been in the past, like some years ago, right? Like,
correct.
But not in this. They weren't. Yeah, a long time ago. But
they
weren't caught up in any of this, and it feels like they're paying attention, and the eyes that be, they might not be looking at it through the glass that everybody would like, but I think those that are most vulnerable, you know what I mean, like patients, they know what's going on for the most part, but it doesn't seem like in Saskatchewan, for an example, and that's troublesome. It's troublesome that these aren't regulated. Like, okay, guys, you want to, like, how the fuck, sorry, guys, how are we getting legalized cannabis before we get, like, established medicinal facilities? And now we just had the finance report come out, and they're talking about how they're going to give breaks for CBD and pharmaceutical grade cannabis. It's like, hold on.
Yeah.
Well, all this medicinal cannabis shouldn't be taxed. Anything from I guess technically now a licensed producer to a medicinal patient should not be taxed. None of this. Like, I just feel that there should be medical dispensaries as well as these legal ones, and I'm less concerned about the legal ones. However that rolls out, it rolls out, but. For patients, like Shoppers Drug Mart is never going to be able to dispense cannabis as we need it, and we should, in the meantime, I that's why I feel Just Compassion will continue to be open and continue to operate, and hopefully I'll still be able to stay on good terms with local law enforcement, with Toronto Police Services, and in doing so, I want to be working with the government to sort of create a formulary for this. Let's regulate these compassion clubs. Like we've even seen in the real interesting thing is Ukraine, or not Ukraine, pardon me. Legal South America. Really tired right now.
Yeah. Legal. Uruguay.
Uruguay, pardon me. So in Uruguay, they're not being incentivized to sell even the very cheap cannabis outside of pharmacies. One, people don't want to be regulated. They don't want to go in. Then there's the business itself isn't incentivized to sell it because it takes too much time. There's no profit margins. It's just they have other drugs that are more profitable and they're incentivized to sell. And I imagine it will become very similar for Shoppers Drug Mart. Their shares right now, what they want to be interested in is in an online marketplace, right? But as soon as we introduce this dispensing of it, it'll be a different story. Like with these 12 questions to Health Canada, I wrote to them and for our adjustments to the act, the Cannabis Act, I made this suggestion, like, even if I needed a pharmacist on board to dispense cannabis at my location, until a program comes where we have pharmacists that are educated enough about the cannabis, we need a dual system. We need a place also where, and we went on from there, but it's I think a cluster that none of them understand. Even us talking about trying to merge their ideas of how it should work, it doesn't make sense. We have a great system. Let us take it out of the gray. Should have been done a long time ago.
It is. Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, the government years ago, when they first started coming up with programs, that's what they did. Is they went from from coast to coast, talking to compassion centers to see how they operated.
Right.
You
Yeah, and I know, and they even took a lot of consultation from different people, and I think they continue to do so. It's just that's what I don't understand is how did the medical end of this kind of get forgotten so far? So we got work to do, and I feel that if we do it right, then we can get regulations for compassion clubs, and
Yes.
we can, yeah.
Well, they're doing it out in British Columbia.
Well, I mean,
Like, are they not? They're getting, these, Ted's there. They're getting permits or whatever in Victoria.
right.
Are they not? Victoria and Vancouver. Yeah.
Right. Which is exciting, and especially getting the breaks so that they don't have to pay the same fees. And that's exactly like what I've been trying to do, is follow in the footsteps of these like great they're activists who have come before us, like Ted Smith, for an example, who have kind of laid this pathway and created this compassion club model, right? And why can't that exist here? And why can't we be regulated? So we'll see how that goes. And I just don't know exactly if Ontario is so different, right? Like the model set up, it's almost like we need a whole separate program for it to be a medicinal program and then a recreational program.
Yeah,
rather than.
The scary thing is the people who are creating these programs are inexperienced in cannabis. They're throwing out the knowledge and the years of experience cannabis activists have for people who don't have that history, and that's really devastating to me. Have you seen that in Ontario?
A lot. And I mean, beyond that, it's interesting. I want to see everybody succeed, but I think from a patient's point of view, things are only going to be better after the green rush. Because right now, even a lot of activists, it's like, hold on, weren't you just activists? Weren't you active you were advocating for medicine, weren't you? So why are you so eager to sell weed? Like, that's recreational cannabis. Like, okay, that's cool, that's fine, but I didn't actually see you talking about recreational weed, but this is what you're about? Like, there's a difference. Like, there's still a fight here. This isn't over. That's okay. That's money, and those corporations, yeah, they're coming. They got money, and that's great. You want to sign a deal? I've been offered. I haven't signed anything. I don't plan to. Like, this is a fight. This is a war. What did you get into? If you want to make money, then go sit at a boardroom. But this isn't just for activists. It's not time to. You know what? It all depends. I can only speak from my point of view, and I don't know. I'm not a real activist.
I agree, though. Like, I see that. Like, I see that too. I strongly agree. It's like this green rush. That's such a on point characterization of what's going on, and who's losing out is the patients. It is.
Thank you.
Because we're getting ripped off. Right?
Yeah,
they're stepping on our backs.
I was
that's
talking to
their
a
only
patient
way
today.
in. Right?
Yeah, a patient today said the same thing to me. What's the difference between rec and medicinal? It looks like it's just all being blended into one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. It's so crucial that we're designated two different things. Like, even in Colorado, they're two different things.
Of course. And there's different things and laws, and they're adjusting them, and that's cool. But what they did in the budget, and this is interesting, and this is the hypocrisy, and I don't know I don't understand it perfectly, but I'll say it out anyway, is like they said, one, Trudeau says, well, he doesn't want to not tax cannabis or anything that would incentivize people to, quote unquote, I'm paraphrasing this. He was basically saying that he was saying that people would abuse the system, Okay, fine, whatever. That's what he said. Now, in this budget, it came out that it would be not taxing CBD cannabis, right? So hold on, you're going to tell us CBD is medicinal and THC is not? Is that what you're saying? So, and then if THC is medicinal, then none of it should be taxed. And then if you want to lump us in together, then maybe we should all be medicinal because we have an endogenous system. And then there should be no taxes on any of it. So, look, until the government fucking, pardon my language again, but until they like have cannabis lower than the street, they're going to keep putting people in jail. The system's going to keep pumping. They're not interested in true legalization, you know? Or a medicinal system that really helps the people.
And they threw that excise tax on top of the medicinal cannabis. Like that's and then you say, what did they turn around and say? They did that in order to stop people from trying to go around the system. People who are rec users trying to get cheaper cannabis by saying they're medicinal.
And okay, say they would. That's more important than me being sick, needing a deal on my medicine.
Yeah, it just I didn't like that myself.
So. Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
It's all it's too much. It's like it's not understood.
It all comes down to money. It doesn't come down to safety or patient care. It's money.
No,
so when these police go in and raid, it's not about safety or preserving life or preserving property as they've been given a badge and sworn to an oath to uphold. It's about money. And they all claim, oh, well, I'm just doing my job. The higher up told me. Yeah, well, if you all refuse to just do your job for one day, you'd send the message, enough is enough. How many loved ones of those police officers, like in their families and et cetera, could benefit or do benefit from cannabis? It's not enough to say, I'm just doing my job anymore. In this day and age, with technology and knowledge that we have, there's no reason for raids.
Yep, I'll agree.
Yep, no reason.
It's hypocrisy. Like it's, and at the end of the day, it's people who are suffering, who need that medication. Even if it were for a recreation, you're ending a sense of suffering. And you say that, like, it's better to have that suffering as opposed to having someone sell cannabis products that should have been legalized and regulated years ago. Like it's our fault as citizens because we have a negligent government who refuses to stop entertaining petty politics.
Oh, but they'll capitalize. That's like the worst part. Like,
yeah.
40. I got really upset with this whole LP program. I try to keep a whole open mind. Like in the LP program, okay, there's going to be some greater good. We'll see, whatever. A lot of it, maybe it's all going to break in on itself. We'll see. Yeah. There's a lot of people trying to make money, and good luck to them. It's screwing over a lot of people. But more importantly, we can take care of each other as patients if we're activists and we work together. I'm not seeing it, so it's frustrating. And anyway, I sort of lost my train of thought.
Yep.
Well, it's just the money, right? So like activists you'll see the true activists come out when there's no money to be made, when it's just a social agenda to change for betterment. That's the true activist, right? All the ones who are in it for money, they'll fall to the wayside because activism isn't about money. It's about social change.
Right. And
so all of those unlawful businesses, all of those people who risk their civil liberties by opening these shops, like kudos to them for having enough balls to stand up to an unjust law. It's just as simple as that. Like those are the heroes of society, not the ones that kick in doors and shoot dogs and everything like this, all in the name of what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, Justin, can you tell us a little bit about Just Compassion? What are you,
Yeah, well, one thing I'm not is like a for-profit. It's really just like trying to, not as cavalier as some, so I can appreciate how some people want the return or whatever, less about anybody else. I just try and take care of patients. Like we're very strict in our sign-up policy, and we have a nice little spot that my margins are so low that if we're not busy, like I've had months where I'll just put it, I have a great relationship with my landlord. He knows what I'm doing. I'm sick, and I've been late on my rent, and it's okay. He gets it. And it was those things like we were doing really good, had a break in April 2017, and at the same time we were doing good, so I invested in Scarborough, first, last, this, that, whatever, good to go. And then we had to break in, and then I lost all this product and everything, and it was like horrible. And then I waited on opening up Scarborough. So it turned into a big problem. So I didn't want to seek investment because it's hard for me to take investment when I don't understand the future. Like, it's not a normal business, right?
Correct.
I didn't do an investment. Instead, just grind it out and working slowly, and then another thing. So it's been a really rough, great, not rough, because there's been ups and downs. Like I said, it's been a roller coaster. And it's great, a lot more good than bad, and I'm so excited for the future. But it's funny. Like, I laugh about it. It's like, how do you run a business when it's just, even a normal non-for-profit, many are still generating income and treating themselves like a business, where if I'm making good money, then patients are getting great deals, and the price of the cannabis is, if I get a good deal, what I usually fight for with our vendors and growers and gardeners, not fight, but I try to get them on their prices as low as we can with our gardeners, and that gets passed on immediately. We have $5 strains, $6 strains, just trying to get those price points all the way down. I work very closely with the gardeners, so I know who they are, what they're growing with, no pesticides, and what's being used. And we have a great community. It's turned into a community where I'm really lucky to have a lot of support from our members and a safe place. That's what I think people appreciate most about our club is our lounge, the subtle nuances that are not so subtly put in place, like classical music, the way our staff interacts. We have policy that's to treat everybody like family, trying to give them a deal rather than for us to make money. And that's actually a policy.
Yeah. Well, it's more than a policy. It's in your name. It's just compassion.
That's awesome.
That's what you do. Yes.
Yeah, it's real. What we did in the last 2 days is I gave everybody 14 grams of 15 actually, but I told them 14, but just in case, 15 grams of shake for everybody, just for free, and a no purchase necessary. So there was about a handful of people who came and just got it without any purchase, and that's cool because I know they needed it and it's going to help them. And, and I want to try and do that every month at the end of the month. And, if I can, right? I ran out, so I'm going to see if I can acquire more. I'm just if anybody has shake.
Yeah, you're helping out those who are less fortunate. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Even moving into legalization, I might have new members will be under, on disability or making under a certain price point, not a price point, but a salary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to keep the membership kind of tight. For those who need it most, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I know some places in the past where I've been involved with, they would even have a spot they would collect up. People would bring in half-burnt joints, and they would collect them up. And then when there was patients who couldn't afford much or anything, then there was these what they call donations of kindness or something is what it was called.
Beauty.
And have that pass that on to a patient. So,
we have something similar where a gentleman was a patient and a member of ours, and he would come in and help clean out the roaches from the ashtrays, and I would even I have a bag right here for him. So I always collect my roaches for him and a few other people that, it's every little bit helps.
It sure
Bit.
does.
And I remember I've like right now, I've been on bed rest for 3 months. Okay. But this is incredible. Like, even if our business isn't like booming or doing great as far as finances go, this is great. I've been able to heal. And a few years ago, more than a few, but 5 years ago, I was in need of those roaches.
Yeah.
And I got helped so much by a gentleman, so much. It was incredible. Like, that's what changed my life. Like, it was among those experiences that showed me true compassion that I would never get from a licensed producer, that I've never seen since. And it's like, it's incredible.
And that's the cannabis community. And that's what I remember when I first came into the community, was like, here's a bunch of free cannabis, like, heal yourself, feel good.
Exactly. But now it's not looked at as medicine, it's looked at as money.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the problem.
Yeah. You went through an experience that you felt the compassion of somebody else, and being that was probably early on in your experiences, it's just, that's what you know. That's what you know. That's what you know, and that's what you're going to share with others.
I went to all the dispensaries downtown. Exactly. It's important to keep sharing. Like, when I was going to the dispensaries downtown Toronto, it was tough. I was like, oh, wow. Well, this is tough. What am I going to do? Finally, I found one, a collective, that got me in. And it was like, okay, this is affordable. These guys care. I'm getting some shake. I'm getting this and that. It was great. Like, having someone who had affordable medicine and was giving back. And then I was unfortunately told I need chemotherapy for my multiple sclerosis in 2013. I was also told I would never walk again, and it was like crazy. It's unheard of for chemo and MS. Not unheard of, it's just rare, right?
Yeah. I've never heard of it. I've never heard that being used for MS. And I can remember when with the bus going up to Ottawa, how at that time you were really, it had to do with your walking and the canes, and you're actually one of your early times going without it, I believe, something along that line.
Yeah, you know what is incredible? How, so I went, thinking about it, I remember me and my buddy Neil there, we made a long trek to the courthouse after. Like, there was a lot of footwork, a lot of walking. And you know what's exciting? Like, right now, and this is exactly where I get such a smile on my face. If you saw me now, it's like, I'm going to get back to that because I was there. And before that, this is sometime after they told me I would never walk again. Right?
Yeah.
So, and what happened there so I get to finish this is, my friend, when they told me for chemotherapy, I didn't have money. So my friend gave me the best deal that I've ever heard of for a pound of, actually the strain was chemo. And I turned that into cannabis oil. And the next thing you know, my toe moved a few days later. And a few months later, I was, it was enough. Yeah. I called off the chemo. Not immediately, but after a few weeks, I told them I couldn't make it. And then the next time they called me in 3 weeks. And then I was using a walker by then. And, I just said, no, thank you. No, thank you to the chemo.
Wow.
Right?
So this is cannabis success story.
But then that put me on a mission, because the same gentleman there, Mark from SoCo, he helped me. We opened up SoCo and Scarborough together, right? Yeah. And then that showed me how to do it and whatever. And then I opened up Just Compassion and tried to carry on and hopefully improve on the compassionate side of things.
Okay, it's time for us to go for a break. Alrighty. Tonight we're going to listen to a little bit of music by K-Dude. And we're going to hear a little bit of a song called I Got IBD, being that, Alicia and I deal with those issues. And then when we return, we'll continue our conversation. This is the Pace Radio Show on lifestyleradio.net and .ca.
Hey, this is Cheech.
And this is Chong.
And you're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
What is it?
Lifestyle Radio. Say it one more time.
420 radio?
Ooh.
Please hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Let's go. It's up to the disease, it's what's going on inside of me. Some of you got Crohn, Jesus got you see. Let me go and tell them, let me go ahead and speak.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet. www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
CTCP now operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Man, have you been to Cannadays yet? Cannadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Cannadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Cannadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Cannadays. Have your say without saying a word. Cannadays.ca.
The title is Colitis. Other cats got Crohn. Whichever way you work it, have you feeling so alone? But I'm here to tell you first, you ain't all by yourself. Cause almost 1 million people's guts yelling out for help. Some of y'all get mad, others start to cry. So lying archiata has us asking doctors why. It ain't the end of the world, cause it does get better than the fetal position curve.
All right, hi, hello, and welcome back. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show, and boy, are we ever live. And we are live here at lifestyleradio.ca, and you can find us at Spreaker as well as other audio apps. Today on the program, we're joined by our joint host, Alicia Yashcheshen, and tonight we have got two guests tonight. As you heard, Alicia, we had a conversation. We were talking with Justin Loizos, and Justin is still with us on the line. He's going to be joining us as the program goes along. And as well as we have our original guest here with us as well, right, Alicia? Correct. And would you like to introduce our guests?
Will you go ahead, because you do such a lovely job of it.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Okay, tonight this is Lane Britnell. Oh, I knew I was going to spit that up. And Lane likes to help patients with medicinal cannabis, and he is also a cannabis patient himself. And he is here tonight to tell us a bit about his story and a bit about what he has done in order to help patients in the past. And I think we'll find that Lane and Justin have got some similarities. So for sure. So we'd like to welcome Lane to the Pace Radio Show. Welcome, Lane. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well.
Hey, Lane.
Good. Hey, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. We always believe that as people share their stories and say what they've been through, it helps to educate others as well. So, all right. Well, Alicia, I'm going to hand the reins over to you so we can get Lane started here to introduce him to our listeners. And then I'm sure Justin and myself will join in with some questions on our own.
Awesome. Sounds good. So welcome, Lane.
Hi.
So what I like to do on the Pace Radio Show is ask our guests what their first experience with cannabis was. So take me back to your first time with cannabis.
Okay, so in preparing for the interview, I listened to a few of your episodes, and so I knew this one was coming.
Nice.
Yeah. And I've got to give you two answers for that one, because I've got a really good one, and the other ones I'm just not so proud of.
Cool.
So
okay.
very, very first time using cannabis. I wouldn't. It would have been. I was in university. I think I just finished my first year, so I had never used cannabis growing up. It just wasn't part of my world. It was always quite pro-cannabis and had friends that used it and stuff. And I thought it was really weird that it was illegal, and thought it was kind of silly that it wasn't. But I was also a drug-tested athlete. So even when I had other friends in my circles using it, it just wasn't something for me. Until 1 year, this would have been like after my first or second year university, after we finished, so this would have been in the spring, after nationals. So I used to compete in track and field, and we kind of had the period where, of course, everyone thought, if you're anywhere near cannabis smoke, it's going to be in your system for like 6 weeks kind of thing. So after nationals was that one time, you're furthest away from your next season. So I was at a house party with other track athletes, and there was a joint passed around, and those were the bad guys on the team. You don't want to hang out with those guys, the ones with the cannabis.
Black sheep.
So I went out and
Were you saying you inhaled them?
So I tried it, and this is why I'm not so proud of the stories. Like, I was belligerent drunk. Alcoholism's a real problem in college sport, and I was completely part of that. And looking back at this now, that it was, we were the outcasts going to pass a joint around. So that was my first time, and honestly, a couple puffs didn't feel much because I was already impaired from alcohol, didn't think much about it, and then cannabis wasn't part of my life anymore. That was, I tried it out, and didn't really have much of an experience at all. So that was the first time I ever tried it. Then what I consider my first experience with medical cannabis and finding relief from it was a very different story. This would be two or three later years after that, when I was very, very sick with Crohn's, and I was still in university, and I was in school to become an industrial arts teacher, so to teach shop. And we had any of our classes that weren't in the shop, we did all of our curriculum stuff with all the home economics students. And one of the girls that had been baking made some weed cookies, and one of my other shop friends. Yeah, right. And I was so scared of drugs, and I was a grade 6 DARE valedictorian, like the works. And so I had my friend get the cookie for me. I wasn't even comfortable going near it, and so I had this weed cookie. And again, like I had friends that used cannabis, and it wasn't something completely like foreign to me. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the full stoner thing. And this is when you'd still like rent movies on your pay-per-view or whatever. So I got a funny movie, and I went and I got a frozen pizza, and I got some junk food. I was like, I'm going to do this. Just kind of a geek, right? And I ate this cookie. At the time, I had been really suffering with Crohn's disease. I know both of you hosts know what that's like, and
sure do.
Within, I was feeling kind of groggy in an hour, and within 2 hours, I was ravenous. And now I'm just guessing the timeline at this point, but I destroyed a pizza and ate a whole pile of junk food and passed out in my chair, slept for 8 hours. When I hadn't eaten a solid food meal in a couple of weeks, and I hadn't slept, more than 2 hours without having to go to the bathroom in months. So to have just eaten this cookie and all of a sudden have eaten, it was a terrible choice of food, but to have eaten real food and actually nourish my body and then be put into this restful, healing sleep was just incredibly profound. I'll remember that forever, how profound it was for me.
Nice.
Well, obviously, it was such an impression that it got you to speak up and share your story with others. Justin, is this something that, I don't know if you know or not, Lane, but Justin is involved with a compassion center in Toronto called Just Compassion. And Justin, do you run into stories like this, like Lane's, where patients come in who weren't or aren't cannabis consumers normally, but have come to cannabis?
Definitely. Like hi Lane.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. One of our great pleasures comes in educating the most new, and whether new in any age, and especially one of my proudest moments was having two female. I was looking in the camera, and there was 3 gray hairs at the counter, and 2 of them were female. They're all interacting and talking together, every one of our staff members gets trained, and if they're not, then in specific things, we're very specific about how we go about introducing our members to cannabis. And I take special pride in dealing with people on their first encounters, especially those who are elderly. That really is something that, I don't know. So there's some of the joys that you get at the club, you get some real ones, and that's some of them.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Now, Lane, as far as yourself, when you first started, you found the benefit of this cookie, but you're not normally a regular cannabis consumer. So as far as access for your cannabis medication, was that something that was a bit of a challenge?
Yeah, well, and I'm trying to think, this is like in the MMAR, so this would have been 4 or 5 years ago when I had this cookie experience, and as much relief as it had given me, and I was on all sorts of drugs at the time, I felt that it was so taboo, I didn't even pursue it further. I just thought like you should, like I had that cookie double wrapped and, jammed in my bag. Like, I just thought I grew up, was raised really straight, small town, goody two shoes. And I still had it in my head that I was doing a bad thing, even though it had given me so much relief. And it was months and months that went on. My health had to really crash, like to where I really was almost dead, for my doctor and I to go, hey, should we so when I actually got signed up was probably 6 months later. I really had to decline even further for another 6 months before I even took it seriously. And it was just, my doctor and I were running out of options. I was taking way too many painkillers, and we heard that it helped chemotherapy patients eat. That was all we knew about cannabis medically, and I was just so desperate to eat again. And I told her about the cookie and stuff. We knew nothing about inflammation or CBD or actually treating the disease. I just wanted some symptom relief. And so it was actually 6 months or so after that cookie experience where we started looking at it seriously, and then really went from there.
Was the cookie experience, I just want to understand, because the psyche can be interesting in these situations. I know you understood it as medicine, but then that gap there, was it just the law per se that was keeping you away? Or was it also the fact that maybe you weren't sure? Maybe it wasn't 100%, or that wasn't something that you quite added up, right? That experience.
Or a bit of both.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Because it was. I mean, definitely the law, and I don't know. All we had ever heard about medical cannabis those days was just HIV and cancer, and it was. Right. I don't know. I just hadn't thought that it wasn't in my world, or that I didn't think it was a thing for Crohn's, and
right.
I thought maybe I just felt good because I was high. Like it made me stoned and put me to sleep. So I think that's why I didn't really pursue it or take it that seriously. Really just brainwashed to not even look at it as an option when it made me feel so good.
It's hard to do a 180, on that. I see that. Yeah, like to go from something that you believe is bad, it's against the law, and then all of a sudden you're consuming and you're finding benefit from it, but you still feel guilty. There's all that stigma around you.
Yeah, really, and to this day, just because of the way society is, and maybe it's not that judgmental or whatever, but I mean, I've been using cannabis openly for 4 years now, and I still wrestle with, pulling out the vape or sparking up a joint in public, next to a cigarette smoker. I'm still looking over my shoulder.
Yeah. And even though you're licensed, were you going to say something there, Justin? Go ahead. Yeah.
I think it was, I could jump in a hole. I don't know. There's some say it was, okay. I remember my cousin, we were driving like crazy to the hospital for his Crohn's, where I think I was 18, 19, and just driving to the hospital. I'm left and right through traffic, and he's with his girlfriend in the back. Aww. She's rolling a joint, and I didn't even get it. I didn't get it. He did, though. He understood it, right? So by the time we get up in emergency, he takes it. I don't know how much he smoked. He felt better. And then it was like, no, there's no fucking way. No. He went in and got tested and everything, and that was when he got his official diagnosis. But that was my first experience with, seeing medicinal cannabis. And I was with Crohn's. That totally reminded me of that situation. It's wild.
Yeah, everyone here on this panel knows that cannabis helps a lot of things. There's very few ailments that aren't helped by it, but and I always kind of wondered, am I just an exception? Am I just lucky? And in the last 4 years or so, and I know, Justin, I'm sure you've seen the same thing through your Compassion Club, that like for Crohn's, it really works. Like, it's one of those ones where it's clear. It's not just maybe it's helpful. It clearly helps people with Crohn's disease, like black and white almost. I haven't seen a single person with Crohn's use cannabis and have a negative response.
Now, as far as I believe I read something there about you, Lane. Since you've been diagnosed with Crohn's disease, they haven't prescribed any opiate medications for you?
I used them for my surgery.
Correct.
Which, like if you're cutting an organ out, I don't want a doobie. I want fentanyl. But that was the only time, So whereas before cannabis, I was using a lot of Dilaudid and a lot of Percocet. I had addiction issues with both on more than one occasion. And like I needed them. I needed 3 Percocets to leave the house and go be a human being. So yeah, other than a very major surgery where I used opiates for a week, I have been actually basically pharmaceutical free for about 4 years now.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
I like to point that out because I myself I haven't had a prescription for opiate-based drugs other than when I'm in the hospital.
Yeah,
so,
right on.
Yeah.
And that's something I tell people, even if, all this profound stuff it's done for Crohn's, I can name 10 different symptoms it's controlled for me, even if it just did one of them, or even if just one of the things was how it's reduced my opiate intake, let alone ceased my opiate intake. That alone is the reason we all need access to this and, should be using it, or at least taking a look at it for therapy in Crohn's disease.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I know there's been some
even
studies.
If it just did that one thing.
Yeah, there's been some studies there I've seen online that have been very positive for it. So now Go ahead, Alicia.
Oh, I was just going to say, Lane, what does your doctor say about your Crohn's disease and cannabis use?
Any specialist I've seen is not a big fan. However, my family doctor that I work with is amazing, and my original I'm trying to think of the family doctor I was with when I first started using cannabis. I haven't seen her in a couple of years, but she actually had me come in to do a panel presentation to her staff, basically going and the irony of this was I was doing this panel presentation to the doctors the morning I was arrested in Saskatoon, but she brought me in basically to talk to them about cannabis, and she was kind of saying hey, you saw this guy a couple of years ago. Look at him now. He's working. He's, training again. And she was very receptive because she saw it in front of her own 2 eyes. She saw this opiate-addicted 130-pound vegetable come back to life. So she couldn't not share that with her colleagues. And I thought that was really awesome of her, really brave of her to acknowledge that this needed to be shared.
Yeah. Yeah, yet again, another person see it before their eyes, and they're just astounded. And you see, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And again, the irony is 2 hours later, I had cuffs on, but I did at least get to a few doctors. So.
Now,
okay, take me to the handcuffs, though. You say, let's go down that road.
So fast forward a little more. So I began using cannabis under the MMAR program way back when, and had a lot of success with it. It's kept me off of pharmaceuticals, like I said. And then in 2015, I just heard through friends or Facebook or whatever, I saw that there was this thing called the Saskatchewan Compassion Club, and I had been a mail order patient just from different shops in BC for the last couple of years, and guys like Dana and lots of great folks in the industry using the mail order system. But of course, that's not ideal. And when I saw that there was something opening up in Saskatoon, I was just overjoyed. So became a member right away and got to know the owner, Mark Hauk. And as he was building his business, he shortly asked me to work for him as a patient consultant and bud tender and help with that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So we opened August of 2015, and it was the first Compassion Club in Saskatoon. And that was a very profound experience for me as well. I think it did a lot of great things for the community. Unfortunately, it was raided almost 3 months later, around 3 months, towards the end of October. And just as a bud tender, I was given 7 trafficking charges, or 4 trafficking, and then there's proceeds of crime and all that stuff. So it's all sorted now, but it was quite unfortunate that that club was shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And the show started, we were talking with Justin about his situation and how he was broken into and being involved with the police. And then you look at this situation here with Lane where the police are involved, but it's in the negative end, whereas Justin's it was on a positive end.
But so did they ever say why they raided though? Like what was the big idea about it? Like
the law is
it
the
was
law.
illegal. Yeah.
Really, yeah. Things like one statement that comes to mind is that one of the police said that they were too public about it, and that's him referencing Mark actually going to city council, going to the chief of police months and months in advance, showing what other jurisdictions are doing. And then, being open, he went to the media. He was open on social media and stuff like that. So that was one thing we heard the police say, but we know there weren't any complaints. They just didn't seem to like that it was happening, I guess.
And so why the 3 months, though? They just wanted you to be established and help those people for those 3 months and then just kind of quash that, or what?
And it was a planned investigation. So this was called Project Fextern. We don't even know what it means. It had a name. It was a project name and stuff. I've actually named the first cross, the first strain I've made. I've named it Project Fextern after that raid. So it's got a pretty good story behind it. So, but that's about the only meaning I have. I don't know why they named it that or what their and that's the thing. They knew the club existed right before it even existed. So they kind of we really threw them a softball.
Well, the name Project Claudia in Toronto was like a hurricane. That's was their theme behind it. I don't know what yours. Why? That would have been for yours. So,
was there? I might have misunderstood something, but did you get product returned to you?
Yeah. So they also went to my home, and the officer that checked me in, the very first thing I showed him was my medical document, which shows I'm legally allowed to possess, X amount of cannabis. Yet they went to my home anyways and and they took everything, all of my medication, and like right from the medicine cabinet too. Like there was some on the coffee table, some in the medicine cabinet, but they had like flipped over the mattress and broken apart. Like they pulled apart my air conditioner as if I'd be hiding drugs in there. Or like, you know, it's just something I used as medication, but they did the full on like, you know, raid like cops. And right away, my lawyer said that needed to be returned. So then, because it was all within my limit, so they acknowledged that, and the next day they returned 30 grams of just mixed bloods, and of course I had everything labeled by strain for different symptoms and different times, and I just been given back just this random bag of bloods, and we told them that would be like just taking someone's pill bottles and mixing them all together and handing it back. But of course, not a lot of empathy there. And then it was ordered that it all needed to be returned, which then, of course, once they accept it, there's like a 30-day wait period for no reason. And we waited, and we did get it returned. So that was kind of a cool story that the police returned. So again, this wasn't anything from the storefront, but this was just my own medication that the police had to return seized medication because they took medication from someone, which was pretty messed up, but it was good that got to the media. Unfortunately, it wasn't usable, the way everything was mixed together, not stored properly, and then of course, my big jar of oil, which is the most important part, was given back with an inside-out used rubber glove in the jar.
Yeah. Wow.
So, you know, the little things like that where they're just kind of sliding in a fuck you to, you know, it's like they reluctantly had to return this stuff, but had to just throw that in there.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yes. Okay, all four of us, we're going to take another break. When we come back from the break, guys, I want to talk to you about how you consume cannabis. It sounds like, Lane, you're right into the oil, and I know Justin loves to consume piles of cannabinoids daily, and it'd be interesting to share that with our listeners. All right?
Awesome.
All right, after break we go. Tonight's bumper music features K-Dube and his song, I Got IBD. And when we return, we're going to continue our conversation with our guests, Justin Loizos of Just Compassion and Lane Britnell. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show here on lifestyleradio.net and .ca.
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Let me go and tell them, let me go ahead and speed. Now Crohn's and colitis, stay on the same side. Both cause inflammation all up in your intestines. Usually keeps it low in the colon, mainly home. Blown up from top to bottom, chances are you're rocking Crohn. But check it either way, you're not welcome to the game. IBD don't set you free, got some things you need to change. The gut's a crazy thing, start a journal of what you eat.
Are you looking for cannabis news, education, and people's opinions? Are you looking to learn what Canadian and international cannabis advocates are doing, not only now, but what got them to this point in their lives, and what does the future hold for them? Do you want to learn how patients are using cannabis as their daily medication, or learn how their cannabis use helps them with their medical condition? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then I'm going to suggest to you to tune in to Lifestyle Radio. Catch their live weekly shows and have your questions and concerns answered and find the experience you're looking for. Monday, catch your weekly news broadcast with the Reef Reporters. Then on Wednesday, get several hours worth of cannabis public education. We get things started with Cannabis and Coffee with Tamarawana. Then tune in and catch Pottawa with Russell Barth, who calls himself the world's angriest pothead. Finish up your evening with the award-winning Pace Radio Show with Al Graham and joint host Kim Cooper and Alicia Yashcheshen. No week would be complete without tuning into Friday night's program, the 420 Radio Show featuring Al Rapp and the 420 radio crew, Mary Jane Baker and Marcel Gignac. Cannabis is a lifestyle, and you can catch all your cannabis lifestyle information right here at lifestyleradio.net or at our sister site, 420radio.ca.
Man, have you been to Cannabis yet? Cannabis, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Cannadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Cannadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Cannadays. Have your say without saying a word. Cannadays.ca.
Hi, this is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
Put you on the salami, lie out the acid come, all the names that you probably seen, chilling in the flip, probably hit you with that Brady deal. Sarah's for you up, hard to control how you really feel. Move face wide awake, always hungry, hard to sleep, or some side effect to get you on in flame. For those whose bodies break, gotta hit that rim of cake. I beat up in 2 months, help that gut and get it saved. Now I know I'm not going on this, but I gotta be real for 1 second. IBD may be the disease that you have.
Welcome back, and thanks for tuning into the Pace Radio Show. We are being broadcasted live here at lifestyleradio.net, or you can catch the podcast at YouTube, iTunes, as well as iHeartRadio if you're located in the USA. Tonight, our bumper music featured was K-Dube, and who is a Christian hip-hop artist and has been diagnosed with colitis. He figured why not take the sound booth and create a song about what's going on with those affected with IBD. So it was great to hear that he's educating people with music about Crohn's and cannabis. Today on the show, we have our guests. That's right, guests, multiple guests. Lane Britnell and Justin Loizos, as well as my joint host, Alicia Yashcheshen. All right. We got another little bit of time here, another segment to go in the show. And what do you think, guys? A little bit more education. I see before the break, Lane, we were talking about your oil that they took from you. Justin, I know you love to consume cannabis in many different forms, so I thought maybe let's talk a little bit about how you consume your cannabis. And who wants to go first?
Sure. Go ahead, Justin. I've been talking too much.
Yeah, fair enough. And thank you. I appreciate it. It's been really good. I wish I didn't have to take so much cannabis, but I do. I take a lot. you know, amen, right? Sucks. I actually look forward to the day that I don't, like a full day of no cannabis. I wonder when that will be and how that will feel. It's been
I want to
no more
stop
than...
you for a sec. That brings to mind one of my favorite quotes, and I won't remember which old philosopher it was, but they said that the greatest medicine is to teach one to not need it. And that, I think that's the ultimate goal, at least for myself. So sorry to cut you off there, but I really like what you're saying there.
Yeah, it's sort
Like,
of the goal. I went 3 years without eating any sugar, any wheat, any grain, anything in a box, and everything was. I was eating 9 cups of vegetables, and I won't give you the whole diet, but it was what I considered to be the epitome of health. And I did
it was
that
like a Terry Walls kind of thing.
Exactly, but I supercharged it, and I think she anyway. Well, we could talk about that another time, I hope.
You bet.
But yeah, man, and I was still in the hospital every 4 to 6 months, you know, and it wasn't. So now here we are. That was again. It's been a few years now since I've changed my diet a couple, and I've managed to keep myself out of the hospital for a whole year. So I don't want to like bash the Walls diet or anything, but what I need to do, we need to combine them. I need to combine them because I think what the Terry Walls diet will allow us to do is to rebuild the mitochondria, to get healthy again, right? But this aggressive form of a disease that I unfortunately suffer from, it needs a soldier, something strong that can combat it.
Yeah. It's
not going to kill it. It's not going to destroy it, but it's combating it, right? And it's the amounts and the ratios I have to take, they get pretty intense, but on every day I'll consume, around 1,000 milligrams of THC and hopefully the same CBD, but I find that always hard to acquire.
Expensive. Yeah.
It's expensive. The only reason I say I run a non-for-profit, but the truth is there's a lot of money that goes, not a lot, but it's substantial. It's all relative. Yeah, it's expensive. I'd never be able to afford my medicine if I didn't run I wouldn't be able to afford my medicine without my club, and it's been years of just doing whatever I could, mind you, through the ACMPR, if somehow, if there's some big ifs that I haven't been able to figure out the answers to, but right now I'm doing what I can, and it's generally oil RSO and CBD isolate that I mix with coconut oil, and then I put those into capsules, and I like mixing those, and that's like my general way. And then for spot titration, I'll use dabs, shatter, joints, throughout the day. As I try to stay as unmedicated. And this is an interesting conversation I had with a friend who, and I hope you can appreciate this, where he kind of woke me up and he said, no, you can't think like pharmaceutically, because I always think I'm trying to, I mark everything down, and I'm trying to, not so much anymore, but I try to keep tabs on everything and control it. And I do the minimum in my system, because I'm running a business and I have to keep my mind. But for my health, I've seen nothing but the best results. And this is just, I have a very unique experience. Like, my disease is very aggressive, but my best results have come with massive amounts of cannabis. All right, like going over threshold, what I think is, and that's always been the case, and it's opened up my mind each time even more, and it's fascinating, and I haven't figured it out, and nor have I figured out my disease, which is challenging. All right, but it's nice. Like right now, the last time I just avoided steroids. I think I just mentioned every 4 to 6 months I was taking major steroid infusions. It would be 1,000 milligrams of prednisone for 7 days, and then I'd be titrated off of it every 4 to 6 months. That's disgusting, right?
Yeah.
So horrible.
Yeah, no one should have to live like that.
So I found cannabis. Now I haven't taken the prednisone shots for a whole year, a year and a bit.
Right
it was
on.
January 4th, 2017, right? But then I just broke my foot, and I broke my rib. This was after I just got around an attack by taking 6,000 milligrams of cannabis, 6,000 milligrams of cannabis daily for 6 days, I believe it was, if I remember correctly. So I was able to kind of like get around that attack, but then it's been the weirdest experience where I'm battling my MS, and I got over the broken foot, I got over the broken rib, and and my leg is seizing up. It's a wild journey, but it's somehow I figured out to get around these steroids with the cannabis, this ratio of massive amounts of cannabis. And I don't know if it's this much that's needed, but as I'm saying this, I'm actually planning to potentially take a steroid infusion tomorrow as I go to meet my doctor, because to me it's still a victory. I didn't expect to break my rib. I didn't expect to break my foot. Like, this is a lot. It's been 3 months on bed rest, and I haven't been able to turn it around. So here we are, and I think it just might be time to tap, go in, reset, recalibrate, and go another year, make it 2. Don't break my foot. Don't break my rib.
That's right. That's right. Stay healthy. And yourself, Lane, as far as consumption-wise, being, I don't know whether you're I understand you're athletic. You've won some awards and stuff like that. Were you against the smoking end? Did you go to an alternative way of taking your cannabis?
No, certainly not against it. I think, I smoke a lot of joints. I probably shouldn't. I think combusting anything is bad for you. That being said, I like it. I just like smoking flower. But the science out there does clearly show that vaporization is better for you. So I try and do that when I can. But honestly, next to the volcano, I haven't found a flower vaporizer that I like or that hits the same as a joint. But as far as dosing and stuff, quite similar to Justin, and this always fascinates me, the similarities between different autoimmune diseases. So myself also, it was prednisone was the boogeyman. I haven't had to get an infusion of it for a number of years, but it was taking cannabis oil that got me off of prednisone. So if we go back to when I had met with my doctor and we had heard cannabis helps chemotherapy and wanted to eat, we just started with 1 gram a day, and I started just, I told her I was vaporizing, but I was actually smoking because I didn't have a vaporizer, and that was helping my symptoms tremendously, but I was still on all sorts of pills, and it was after doing a bit of Googling, learning about Shauna Banda and her story. Once I started eating oil, I was able to take less and less prednisone. It was incredible. Anyone who's been on it before, you taper down your 5 milligrams at a time, and anytime I got below 20, I would just get violently ill, and I couldn't just seem to get past that 20 milligram mark. And when I started the cannabis oil, I just tapered off without any side effects, not at all. And that was when I knew it was, at that point, treating the disease and actually working as an anti-inflammatory and as an immunomodulator. And it wasn't just helping my nausea like it was before. And here we are 4 years later, kind of like Justin was saying, I'm still trying to figure this out. I think in a perfect world, people wouldn't be coming, a pharmacist could tell someone what they should take and how much. And I'm sure Justin agrees, in a perfect world, patients wouldn't be coming to a bud tender to know exactly what they need to take, and it wouldn't be trial and error. But Luckily, cannabis is non-toxic. Unfortunately, the pharmacists aren't trained, so it's been a lot of trial and error. And but similar to him, to stay off prednisone, I seem to need at least that gram of RSO oil, which would be around 600 milligrams THC. I do feel great when I take more, but I think anything above, and this is just for me personally, anything above 2 grams of RSO, I don't think I'm getting much more benefit. But something I've been finding recently is trying to get more THC acid into my system, as well as CBD acid. And so the studies right now, even Crohn specific or IBD specific studies, are showing a lot of promise with THCA being vastly more anti-inflammatory than THC. And like, I know that THC is doing a lot for me, not just symptoms, but it's definitely helping treat the disease. But since I've introduced, I just made a tincture with some rosin and didn't heat it. Taking the rosin tincture has been giving me a lot of benefit, as well as eating raw kief and having raw CBD too. So one thing I did, and this is all recent, so like I'm saying, this is still an evolving process, and this is exactly why I'm actually quite reluctant to give out dosing advice, is because, you know, I'm one of the more knowledgeable people I know, and 4 years later, I still don't know. But I took a 1-to-1 strain. I think it was Moby Dick, but it was tested at 1-to-1, and I sifted it all and took all of that 1-to-1 keef and decarbed half of that, and then I call it the 1-to-1 to 1-to-1 oil, having kind of equal parts THC and CBD, and then THCA and CBDA. So that lately has been helping a lot, because with those raw cannabinoids, we can treat the same symptoms via different pathways. For example, CBD and THCA are both anti-inflammatory, but they do so through different mechanisms. So you can kind of hit the same symptom through 2 different ways. And now I'm kind of just babbling, but that's something I'm up to now. High doses of oil and trying more raw stuff.
No, nothing wrong with babbling. Nothing wrong with babbling. Alicia, we haven't heard from you in a while.
I agree with the oil with the Crohn's disease, but I'm a big fan of suppositories. I find that the way in which it heals the body is just incredible, and you don't get high, but you just have this intense, like, relief of pain and symptoms. Is that something that all of you, I guess, have tried or considered?
I have, and I've heard there's something I recommend to other people. I don't talk about this much, but being with a couple other IBD people, I've actually had a lot of surgery down there, let's just say, and it's it's just too sensitive, and I still deal with bleeding and stuff like that, and the suppositories really sounded like a godsend. It sounded like exactly what I need, but I just can't. They're too uncomfortable, and I've got too much surgical trauma down there. However, I've heard from other dispensary owners, many other Crohn's patients. This is something I do almost obsessively, is just ask people what they're using, what they're having success with, and like exactly your sentiment that they work amazing, Alicia. Like, so everyone says the same thing. I've heard like remission stories just from suppositories, and looking at it on paper, on what we know about the delivery and bypassing the liver and all that stuff, it really does look like the best way to absorb cannabinoids. So I agree with it. They just don't work for me. Maybe I need like a pediatric size one or something like that. But Yeah, so no suppositories for me.
Careful.
Oh, so you actually use like the ones that are shaped, but you've never used just a syringe like that Phoenix Tears comes in? Because that's what I do.
No, and you know what? Maybe I should just give that a go too. And because where it just is, I know it sounds weird, but I think, and these, you know what? I shouldn't say it sounds weird because these are the things we need to talk more openly about. And
Correct.
Patients,
Yeah.
these are the things people are shy to talk about at the dispensary. But honestly, it actually feels pretty good to be open about this because I know I'm definitely not the only one with that sort of trouble. And you know, maybe I think if someone could formulate a product that was some sort of, you know, cannabis oil enema type product, that would have a lot of benefit to that would have a lot of applications for sure.
Yeah.
So
I find
with the syringe.
Yeah, I find that with Crohn's that sometimes some of the topics you come across talking to people out of the blue it can be, you know, not a regular conversation that you would have with people when you're talking about crap and all that. Yeah. Exactly.
Unfortunately, with MS, there's some problems, but the drugs that I've been given along the way have destroyed my bowels, you know, and I can, unfortunately, I don't know, I can sympathize with you guys. Like, it's horrible to have to deal with these type of, ailments. It's horrible. And even to have to plan your day and life around it is, anything that can help is incredible. You know, I've never taken it upon myself to try, but I've met like many patients who do use it, and I've talked about it quite a bit, but never experienced that type of medication, we'll call it. And even then, when I'm talking about it, there's some kind of, you know, I just know. But now, with understanding that, you know, now I have new issues. So it's something that I may be going to consider. I'm not opposed to it. Like, it's all about healing, right? I'm not going to let something that I'm maybe a little bit shy about, because even myself, if it's talking to another patient, that's fine, not a problem. When it comes to yourself, now it's a whole other deal, right? But maybe I should consider it as we're talking. But I've never put good consideration into.
I think for anyone, it doesn't even have to be a direct, you know, like for IBD, you know, someone such as yourself who's just trying to megadose cannabinoids, period. I think that's a really great way, at least the studies are showing it's a great way to uptake cannabinoids and just get them, make them very bioavailable. So it may be a good option just for people trying to get those higher levels into their system.
Yeah, I think it can help. However, it's all about keeping an open mind, you know, and it's so important to do so with all medicine, because cannabis is holistic, and we have to remember that it's about keeping an open mind, and all types of therapies can work potentially, right?
Yeah. And you know, when it comes to cannabis, not everybody can smoke it, not everybody can swallow it. You know, and consume it that way, and the suppositories is another way of taking it. That's for sure. And you know, we've had past guests on the show that have, you know, like Captain Dave, where he talked about making suppositories and the benefits of them. Owen Smith, in the past, he had a fellow on who wrote a big article for Cannabis Digest talking about the benefits of the suppositories. So yeah, experience-wise, I'm like Lane. It looks like Alicia, you're the only one.
And Alicia, are you just syringing oil, or do you use a molded suppository?
No, I'm just syringing oil. Like, I have syringes that are specifically
I might have to just go for it and just try that.
It's interesting.
That's what I did. And the first time I tried it, I was like, oh my God, because I have quite a lot of pain in my body from car accidents, and I've never had pain relief from anything like that ever, not even a narcotic. And I was just like, wow.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. It's amazing how
I've had some cancer patients have great success, but never just with the syringe. It's interesting. Even just a good concept. Why not? I mean,
Well, because don't forget they make those suppositories so big, though. Like, I mean,
right.
Come on. You know what I mean? So that's why I was like, hey, there's something to this. And there's this little vet guy. He had damaged his body being some kind of like stunt double guy or something. And so his wife suggested that he just use this syringe, and he uses a whole one every day. And so he said that and it was like just CBD, I think. And he said that the changes in his body were just phenomenal. Even his wife were like, we can't get over it.
I think it's a great option for CBD too, because that's something I forgot to touch on when I was talking about my dosing. Is something I found myself was that CBD really doesn't work when I eat it. After a bit more Googling, it looks like in animal studies, oral administration of CBD is only about 6% makes it to the bloodstream. Whereas a tincture sublingual was around 30%, and the rectal administration, I want to say 30, but I think it was even higher. It was similar to THC in that it's highly bioavailable because when you eat it, it's the liver that destroys CBD. So I want to be able to. I want to take the suppositories for that reason, just as a way of megadosing CBD in high amounts. Right now, I just do as much tincture as I can and try to vape it. But that's
if you take it along with medium chain fatty acids, they'll generally bypass the liver, so it skips a level of metabolization.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because I always mix with MCT. Yeah, I'm going to go back to that animal study now.
Exactly.
Now, Lane, with these, I don't know whether, obviously you're not in university anymore doing your javelin stuff and all that anymore. But when it comes to these drug testings and all that for competitions, or maybe with the stuff that you're involved with now, because you're still doing with weight training or something, Kinder Ball?
Yeah, I still, I'm a kettlebell instructor and a strength coach, so that was a way I kind of got involved in sport again after I got sick. So I was kind of on track to, I guess the plan was to go to the 2016 Olympics in Rio last summer. And it was 2012 when everything, I kind of had the rug pulled out from under me, and my health totally crashed. And I just really wanted to, I had felt so blessed to have worked with some really amazing coaches along the way, both in the gym and on the track. And I learned so much, and it just seemed like a waste for, like, obviously I was sad I couldn't compete anymore, but it just seemed like a waste to have learned all this, great knowledge and for it to not go anywhere. So I started studying to become a personal trainer when I was in the hospital, just as a way that I could still be involved in sport, so I could coach people. And then that turned into a part-time job just to earn some money while I was still in school. And then turned out, well, the further I got into the education system, the less I actually wanted to be a part of it. And I fell in love with coaching, and now that's one of the other hats I wear is working as a fitness instructor.
So if you were, I guess no matter how you would administer the cannabis, whether it was through suppositories or with the oil, it would prove positive in those tests that you had to do back then?
Oh, was I ever drug tested while I was...
Well, I'm assuming, yeah. You mentioned something earlier about doing drug tests, so I'm wondering...
Oh, right, yeah. So I was drug tested, but it was before I ever started using it. Yeah, and that was why I didn't use it, one of the reasons why.
Yeah. And if you used it alternative ways, you'd still get nabbed on it, eh?
Currently, so I checked into that in 2012, like when things were just starting to go south, and I still was trying to compete, and I checked because when I was on prednisone, that's also a banned substance, and there's a form you can get if it's actually prescribed by a doctor, then you can get an exemption form. So the same thing is available. Any prescription, like any drug that's banned, you can apply for what's called a therapeutic use exemption form, the TUE. So and that's worth noting for any drug tested athletes out there. You can still use medical cannabis if you have a prescription, if you get the proper TUE form. Another neat thing with WADA, that's the World Anti-Doping Agency, moving forward, now in 2018, CBD is no longer a banned substance. So they're not even, well, I don't think they wouldn't have ever tested for CBD in the first place, but it's not illegal to use CBD. And they've also increased the nanogram limits on THC. So, that's progress.
Good, yeah, it is progress considering what was Ross, the snowboarder. You know how things have changed since then, eh?
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, guys. This has been a great conversation. Anything else that you guys want to discuss? Well, we got the airwaves still going here. Anything you want to mention?
Thanks for having me. Pleased to meet Justin over there.
Yeah, go ahead, Alicia.
I guess I would just I'm curious about like diet. So do you kind of have to be really strict with your diet, or you kind of like both of you, I guess, because food you are what you eat, right?
Yeah, totally. I'll try not to get all rambly here again too. I like what Justin brought up with, the Terry Wall's protocol is great. And what he said about being an integrative process, right? Like I think it would be just as foolish to think, for myself anyways, it would be just as foolish for me to think that cannabis can completely cure me as it would be to think that food can completely cure me, right? But they're both key parts of it, and we are what we consume. And like Justin mentioned, mitochondria, that's where your power is. And I think if you can get your body working better on a cellular level, you can get your body working for you instead of just creating, as opposed to eating foods that are going to cause more inflammation, then you'll have your body working against you. That's, I think, well beyond the scope of what we have left to talk about here, but that's something I'm very passionate about, just like exercise and movement is nutrition. And working as a bud tender was always sad for me to see people trying to kind of put all their eggs in the cannabis basket and think that was the one thing that was going to make them better. Or, people with back injuries that had never seen a physiotherapist and they're, expecting cannabis to fix their injuries. It's like, well, let's try both. I'm going to stop rambling, but I think nutrition is super important. If we can talk more specific later, but give it to Justin now.
Yeah, I agree. I really do, and to almost all of that. And it's just hard to maintain. That's been my problem now.
Yeah.
So hard.
Yeah, I can agree.
It's
expensive, and you have to prepare and plan, and
it's a job. It's a job.
Yeah.
It's a job, and if you don't have the right support system, I'm just making do with what I can, which is like a juice a day in the blender. Not a juice a day. It's lasting me like 3 days now, but if I can, at least get a juice in, and I have these ideas down the road, and I have great support. I just don't have what it once was, and that's okay. I will get back to that, and I'll get healthier myself, more importantly. I think that's what's more important. And the diet will come. I don't think that the piles of vegetables that I it'll come. And I think part of the long-term plan is being completely holistic, and that includes the vegetables and the diet as a lifestyle and not just a diet, just like, but maybe still eating a pizza here and there, so, or whatever. Like,
you got to have a few free radicals every once in a while, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it, though. I like that.
Yeah,
well, you don't want your, protocol to cause more stress than what it's helping, right? Like if you're now stressed out that you're not eating the foods you like, and the prep is too much of a chore or whatever, and if it's a net negative to your life, it's not helping you, right?
Yeah,
so you kind of have to look at the net cost benefit to whatever it is you're doing,
Yeah, like I was in the hospital back in August, and I was in there for a partial bowel blockage, and it was basically your choices. You got to change some foods that you've been eating. Like here, I thought I was eating healthy by eating trail mix, and the surgeon looked at me and says, "That's the worst thing you could eat because of the nuts and the seeds and stuff, eh?" And I've had to change my diet yet again. You changed it several times over the last 15 years, but it's a constant evolution. And now it's basically soft foods. Everything I eat is soft. I hardly eat anything that crunches.
Yeah. Most of my meals look like baby food.
Yeah.
But it works, right? And you find what works for you.
Correct. You throw it in the blender, puree, whatever you want to call it. So, yes. All right. Well, this has been great. This has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed this. Sometimes the best things work out that aren't planned.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So, let's give both of you. I don't know, Alicia, have you got any more questions for either one of them?
No, I think I was just really curious about the diet, and Lane touched on what I was kind of poking at, is that some people put all of their blind faith into cannabis, meanwhile smoking and drinking Tim Hortons and everything else. So I just wanted to see if our perspectives are in alignment, because that's how I am. I'm very meticulous about my diet and anything that I ingest, and so so that's nice that we're all kind of on the same page. We have that understanding. So
that's good.
Exactly. And all right, super. This has been great. Like I said, let's see. Shout out time. Then who wants to go first? Where can Justin? You came on the show first tonight, so we'll just do it that way. How can people find you? We got a website for Just Compassion.
Justcompassion.ca, and MJ versus MS, marijuana versus multiple sclerosis. That's so important. And I want to be supporting that's it. I'll leave it at that. Thank you for having me on, and it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this has been great having you on to come in there. You're on Instagram as well?
Yeah, just my name, Justin Loizos, Loizos.
All right, and that way people can follow some of the stuff you do, stuff you've done in the past.
Yeah.
And that as well. Super. Lane? You got a person, place, a website, something along that line where you want to throw a shout out to?
This is what I'm reluctant to do because I don't want to leave anyone out. There's so many amazing people doing great work in this industry. But top of my head is just anyone sharing this stuff, such as yourselves. Thank you for what you guys have been doing. I've listened to a few episodes, and people like Mark and Matt from the National Compassion Club from home, the guys from Best Buds back at home, even what Justin's doing, the people out there doing the grassroots work, helping patients on the front lines. It's really noble work, what you guys are doing. And, just for having the courage to share, even that is great. So, Yeah, shout out to those people sharing and helping people.
Yeah. All right, super. That's great. That's it's right. It takes the people to speak up. It's the grassroots that are helping to make change. I completely agree with that. So, all right, Alicia.
Yes.
Have you got anybody you want to throw a shout out to?
I would like to throw a shout out to both of our guests. I appreciate them being on the show and being so authentic and showing us their compassionate side and telling us about how they live their life and heal their bodies. Yeah. That's awesome. And so much love to you both. And you, Al, of course.
Thank you, Alicia. Yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's so important when people share their stories and what they've been through and how they deal with cannabis. It helps to educate others about that. So that's what we're all about. Yeah, that's right. People advocating cannabis education, right? So, all righty. Let's see. Next week, I will be back with joint host Kim Cooper and her guest Irene York. She happens to have just recently written a book, as well as she operates the Cannabis Corner Cafe in Penetanguishene. So another Northern Ontario person. I don't know whether you've been up there, Justin, or not.
Penetang?
Yeah.
I've been in and around, almost. Yeah, I've been pretty close. Out camping and whatnot.
Well, if you're ever up there, they got the Cannabis Corner Cafe. All right, you can find Pace on Pace Radio Show. We're on Facebook. You can also catch us on Twitter at Pace Radio. Plus, we're on Instagram as Pace Radio Show. And we can be found on the web at pace-online.ca. Thank yous, as always, to our sponsors, the friendly and helpful folks at CC Nexus. They're Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. They can be found at ccnexus.global. As always, to our producer, Al Rapp, man behind the baggie, he works behind the scenes. And a big thank you to our guests, Lane Britnell and Justin Loizos. It was great to have both of you guys on there. Both of you conversing between each other. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. So, Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And to you, Alicia, as always, I always like getting all these thank yous in. I can't forget anybody. Alicia, as always, thanks for everything that you do for the program and bringing in some great guests for us.
Thanks.
And we always can never forget our listeners, and we really appreciate them, so we always thank them for tuning in the program. Thank you, and good night. Talk to you all next week. Bye-bye.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.